Hello folks, welcome back. I am continuing on this development video of my Wheel of Time project that I've been discussing with some of my friends offline. For those of you who may stumble upon this video and have no context, my intention is to build a Wheel of Time video game in VR using Unity in light of it being one of my favorite series, and B, due to the upcoming Amazon series, as well as a fairly renewed interest in the series. Uh, no intents on going full bore and getting this maybe published, but you never know what happens. It's always nice to have a proof of concept, and maybe somebody else might be able to do something and build on top of it. To start, I would like to discuss. I had discussed some character development in some of my previous videos. But this one is going to be the crux of the mechanic that I felt was really appropriate to build into this game. This also kind of is why I'm using Unity and not Unreal, and also there's some other pieces too. So for those of you who may not remember or who may not have gotten really into the series, the Wheel of Time has a magic system where the different elements of water, earth, air, fire, spirit, all that are woven together like a thread, because threads and patterns and cloth-related aspects are really fundamental to the series. So I found something that had been actually, I guess, crowdfunded a couple of years ago, called Infinite Gesture for Unity. And what it was it was basically a plugin or a series of scripts and pieces that use neural networks to interpret gestures or drawings that you make with the controllers. You basically draw a square a bunch of times, and then it starts to recognize the concept of a square. And when you draw a square, and it doesn't have to be exact. And that's one of the issues too. Is when I started this project, a lot of the other gesture recognition types were very strict on what inputs they would accept. So what I wanted is something that's, you don't have to literally, draw the exact measure or have like a half inch, of bandwidth, to try and do this. I thought that would be a pain in the butt. So I found this piece. It's open source, and what I'm doing is, since it's released under the limited GPL or new public license 3.0, I forked it, because it's hosted on GitHub. I'll actually open that right here. It's hosted on GitHub, and it has, if you look right here, this is the Ed1, I guess, was the original developer. He developed this, I believe, in Unity 2017 or earlier. Yeah, 2017.1.4. So what I did was I created a fork of this software. Since that's allowed under LGPL, you can create a fork. However, one of the aspects of this piece right here is that if you do a fork and it's integral to your code, as in you build your code on top of it, you have to make that code open source. And I didn't necessarily want to do that. So what I did is I forked it, and then what I'm doing is I'm putting pieces and hooks and stuff like that I can reach out with my software. So those hooks will be published, so you can see what I'm doing right here. So I trimmed it down because they had a lot of so basically, instead of being a plugin, this was essentially a big Unity project. If you look at the base code, and what happens with that is that it's not really easy to port into a Unity project. And that's kind of fundamental to what I'm trying to do, is because I'm trying to keep the code separate so that it's not subject to GPL, where I would have to open up the code. Not that I'm against open source, but if I deem it necessary to open it up in the future, I will. But I would like to have that choice and not have that choice made for me before I start. So that's my thing of keeping it separate right here. As you can see, I've updated it to Unity 2018.4.24 plus, stripped down a lot of the pieces, added my own hooks. So if you look at some of the code right here, you'll see that I have commented pieces right here, and I removed some of the inits, so it's manually called as opposed to automatically attaching it to an object and having it fire when it awakes or wakes up, per this command. And then all the changes that I added on all the hooks and pieces are made in it public, so they can be called externally, as well as added a couple functions down here at the bottom to clear out the trails and to indicate whether it's success or it successfully recognized the gesture or not, because that wasn't necessarily built in. You would do it, and then some of the sample pieces for the game would indicate it only upon success, but there was no like real indicator, and it also didn't necessarily allow you to easily kind of trap that input. So once you successfully did it or unsuccessfully did it, it would immediately fire the next step. So it was just I cut that out. I made it a little bit more granular so that we can insert our own codes and code on top of that, and kind of lateral to that, so it's not, it refers to the other piece, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not building on top of it. That way, obviously to respect the LGPL piece. So going back to our project here, I have a couple scenes. I have my own project right here. I have my WOT VR game right here. I have the Oculus Open VR development resources right here. We use a lot of OVR camera rig. And then just build on top of that. And then this is the piece right here that I'm discussing. So I have a export and a GitHub synchronization set up for this folder right here. So basically what it does is any changes I make in here are separate from these other pieces right here within Git, so that this is backed up, and then this goes to my Git fork for infinite gesture, and then my WOT VR game goes to its own repository, so I can control that. So obviously, like I said, the one piece is LGPL and open source, the other one is private and my own source. So that's how I'm trying to manage this, to keep it separate and not and keep the open source open, and not try and proprietarize it like some other folks do, because LGPL is actually pretty strict, because anything you derive from it, directly, like downstream derived from it, has to be opened up, and that's just, you can change it and you can do whatever you have, but you have to make the code available. And just like I said, I don't, at this juncture, I don't necessarily feel like doing that. So diving into the scenes, I have two right here that are directly related to that plugin. My development path for the software is I'm basically breaking it down into pieces, different mechanics, different pieces, and then once I get closer to proof of concept piloting, then I'll be integrating all these pieces. So my intent initially is to make a third-person piece, and then when you enter combat, then it goes into first person. And first person being the combat here. There's the mechanics here, which is the weave management, and then the weave neural network development right here. So I will start. I believe I had already created a video with the mechanics piece on it, so I will go ahead and go into the neural network development. And as you can see, I labeled this right here to turn on the infinite gesture options right here. So if you look right here, this is the neural network that we have assigned, the WOT development neural network. Process gestures, this is only one ICE right here, and we've processed that. It's a one-handed gesture, and it's been processed 45 times. VR type Oculus Rift, begin in detect mode, and then what we're going to want to show is the VR UI. So basically what this does is this allows us, it creates a panel in-game when we work with the software to capture we tell it when we're recording a gesture and when to process that, and so on and so forth. So we'll go ahead and so we turn on the VR UI right here, and we will go ahead and play this, and hopefully everything works. Okay, I was about to start playing, and I found I had an issue with the code, so I was able to resolve it, get it figured out. So we'll go ahead and get started on here, and I will be editing this together after the fact. Okay, if you look right here, it has a neural network. We just choose the only one where we can create a new one. or we can use the one that was currently in process. Gestures, this is where we record the gestures. Process is where it processes the neural network. And detect is where we detect and test the gestures that we've developed. So if we look right here, we have ice right now, which was what was demonstrated in the first video. And you can look, you can see all the ones that I've used to develop this piece right here. And this is what we would do, this is what it puts together to make the neural network. So, you can kind of see some of them are a little half-assed, or some of them are even overdeveloped, like this one over here. So what it does, it averages all these out, and it says what is this ice single-handed gesture right here. And then, if we were to add more, if we want to add more to it, we would hit record, then draw the piece. We could create a new gesture in this menu. We're going to go back. Process is when we make a change, and it detects it, and then detect. So we go like this right here. See, it detected it. Confidence at 1.00, which I don't think is necessarily correct, because I know if I do like this right here, it'll still think it's a square, which it doesn't have anything else to go off of, so it just assumes it. So that might require some tweaking in the future, but we have a threshold right here, so if it thinks if it doesn't have something that would necessarily be able to make it think that it was ice, then it would reject that piece, and then that also figures into the code as well, and that's it. That's for the development of the neural network piece itself. So we'll go ahead and take off this right here, which stops this piece, and then that really is about it. We can go, what we're going to do is we can go into the code. This right here, VR, laser pointer, and module are for that menu piece. They're not really used anywhere else. We do our own pointer modules for menus and stuff. The real meat of this piece of the infinite gesture section is the gesture rig right here. This is where all the trails and everything like that, that's the indicators and all these other pieces as well. So we're going to get out of, that's the gesture rig, and that actually goes right on the OVR camera rig right here. VR gesture rig, but I put hooks into it so that it can actually be done and popped in via script, as well as initiated and set up, because otherwise, in theory, you'd actually have to come into the Unity UI, click this auto setup, and it would link all these pieces. But what I have it do is I can do that via script, via the hooks that I've put into the code. So that's the infinite gesture rig, or infinite gesture UI plugin, and that's all, like I said, contained under the Edwan folder right here, and that's synchronized to Git as a fork. So the other pieces we'll cover on this script right here are some of the code that I've developed myself. Player manager, obviously this is where I initiate some of the pieces right here. The VR gesture rig, that's how I add it via script, and I tell it to start, and I say enable weave. So basically if you throw the system into detect mode, which is you disable. You go here, tools, infinite gesture, settings. We're going to turn that off, and we're going to tell it to begin in detect mode, and it asks us what neural network to detect with, so on and so forth. And then what that does is that will indicate when it's ready to start detecting visually, and that's inside of. Close that out. Right here, mechanics. As you know, there's not even an OVR rig over here. I have everything set up to go off of script, so I'll just turn that on, and you'll see all the scripts pop up when I actually let me do that maximize on play on. Right here, so you have the game manager. It pops up the OVR camera rig. Attaches the VR gesture rig right here, initiates it, sets it up, which sets up all the gesture trails, and then I have a indicator right here, which is also a prefab. So when it's ready to detect, so inside the game, when I'm ready to detect the, you initiate the magic system, in the lore of the game, it's like seizing the one power. You would actually, that would trigger this to say, okay, now you're ready to start drawing, and it's ready to start detecting. So what I have it doing right now is you draw the piece, and I'll even just show you. You draw the gesture square here. It goes yellow, that's the indicator piece, and then it should start initiating this. So if I hit the A button, which I have it button driven right now, and I try and draw, it won't let me draw. But then I hit the so that was the X button to disable. X button disables, A button enables. I draw it right here. Good to go. And this is just part of my development process. This is I'm having things manually done and button initiated, so I can test them and develop them. And like I said, it's red. Red is safety on. Green is good to go. And then draw. It goes gold, and then it shoots off the ice. And then like I said, it's kind of tweaked right now, so you even draw that or a circle or something like that. So right here, and it'll trigger the this stuff. So that really, for the most part, is about it. I'll go ahead and edit all this together and upload it to YouTube, and move on to the next topic. All right, thanks everybody.